Hi, my name is Jamie, this is Zara, and welcome to the first episode in our new 3-part series.
We are going to be focusing today specifically on anxiety. Let's think about that word. I don't know about you, but for me, when I think about anxiety in my life, I have a lot of things that I'm thinking about, and to be honest, the majority of them are not that positive. When I think about anxiety, it's something that I want to avoid, it's something that I don't want to think about, and to be honest, it's something that I do not want to experience in my body. But when we think about anxiety, let's reframe that, because actually we need anxiety, our bodies need anxiety. It's like if you think about your house. So your house has an alarm system probably for a burglar alarm, and your house will have a fire alarm, it'll have a carbon monoxide alarm as well. So if you think about all these alarms, what they're doing is actually there to keep you safe. So they're there all the time. The same way in our bodies, our systems for anxiety are there all the time, but they don't go off all the time. You don't hear an alarm all the time. But if you hear a fire alarm, if you hear your carbon monoxide alarm, if you hear your burglar alarm, what that does is it sounds to you in a way that says, I need to take action. There's something wrong. There's something going on that is a threat, and I need to take action on that. The same way anxiety works in our body. If we're going off, so if anxiety is happening in our body, it signals to us there's something going on here that I need to pay attention to. I need to take action, and I need to do something about this. It's not always a negative thing, because it actually signals to us that there's something we care about. If we're anxious about something, if we're fearful about something, it's something that, it says to us, there's something I care about here. There's a reason why I'm getting anxious about this situation. And we feel fearful and we feel anxious. So anxiety is the anticipation of something going wrong. It's the anticipation of an event happening. It's the anticipation of something that might not seem that good, that you don't know the outcome of. Our bodies go into anxiety. And fear and anxiety are two separate things. So if you think of yourself on a roller coaster, if you're going on the Big Dipper, maybe you were at Barry's this summer, or Curry's as it's been renamed. So if you're going up to the very, very top of a roller coaster, you're feeling anxiety because you don't know how this is going to play out. You get to the top of the roller coaster, and as you're hanging over the edge, that is still anxiety that you're feeling because you don't know what's happening, the anticipation of a situation. But then as you release down, you're in the situation. So when you're in a situation, what you're feeling now is not anxiety, it's actually fear. So being in the moment of what you're feeling, if something is going on around you that is scary, that you're not okay with, that is you feeling fear. But what we're going to talk about today is anxiety. So these anticipating situations, this alarm bell. So if you notice something is happening in your body and the alarm bell going off, and let's think about your fire alarm, let's think about those alarms in your house. And our bodies do the same thing. They signal to us, but what we need to do is we need to pay attention to that. We need to know our own bodies, because my body, Jamie's body, when we go into anxiety, that will look completely different. There's over 100 different symptoms of anxiety. There's over 100 different things that can happen in our bodies whenever we take on anxiety, or we're anticipating something that we're a little bit scared of happening. And what I have on the screen here is a picture of a person. So you see this picture of a person here. And in our bodies, what'll happen, so you might get sweaty palms, you might get butterflies, some people start to not actually be able to see, some people start to not be able to hear, some people faint, some people vomit. So there's loads of different things, but you need to know what anxiety is signaling your body. So what these things, so if you get sweaty palms, that is like an alarm bell going off in your body to signal there's something here that's not right and I need to take action on that. So what I want you to do is pause this video and chat to the person beside you, or maybe chat as a class. Where do you feel your anxiety? Are you a sweaty palm person? Are you someone who gets butterflies? What does that look like for you? And if you don't know, try and think back to a time in your life where you were a bit anxious and how that played out for you. Okay, welcome back. So I hope that you were able to look at this picture and identify in yourself where, whenever you're feeling anxious, where do you feel that in your body? Because your body is always telling you something. Your body is always holding your stress, it's always holding your anxiety. So it is telling you something, but we just need to listen to it. So I thought, Jamie, why don't you share with us? So Jamie's going to share with us where he feels his anxiety, because sometimes it is really hard to identify at the beginning. It's hard for us to know, but whenever we sort of find out, sometimes it might actually be you hear someone else say, I get this when I feel anxious, and you're like, I get that as well. I feel that exact same thing, but I didn't know that was anxiety. So when we identify it, that is really, really key. So Jamie, if you look at this picture, pretend this is your body, okay? So whenever you feel anxious or you're experiencing anxiety, where would you feel that in your body?
I would probably say two places. The first place would be here in the stomach. When I get anxious, I start to feel the butterflies. So my stomach starts to churn. I don't even feel that I could be sick, but I feel like I don't want to eat anything, you know. And if I don't sort of embrace that anxiety and actually work out what's going on, I could maybe go the rest of the day without eating. So my stomach just churns away, and it's those butterflies in my stomach. And the second way is probably in and around my chest, where I just feel my heartbeat is literally it's racing. My heart could burst out of my chest, and I just obviously then start to get a little bit panicky because I'm thinking, what's going on? Why is my heart racing so much? So they're probably the two main things that I look out for. And when I start to notice them, I realize something's making me anxious.
Yeah. And very, very often you won't even know you're anxious. So very often, so for Jamie, for example, he could be sitting and he notices his tummy starting to go, he's starting to have those butterflies, or his heart's starting to race, and he's like, what's happening here? And you might actually need to backtrack and think about, okay, well, what does my day look like? What has just happened? Have I just had a conversation with someone? What's been going on? And it's as we backtrack, so listening to our body is actually just like that alarm system at the very beginning. So if you hear your fire alarm, you might be able to realize that there's just smoke. There's actually no fire yet. So you're able to put it out before there's an issue. It's the same way Jamie would look. He would realize there's butterflies. He would think, what's actually going on here? What is this signal telling me? And he can actually put out that fire before it becomes something big, before it goes into a panic attack, before it goes into something major. We can actually focus on putting that out. So if you realize that you have those things, if you've identified for yourself, and maybe by listening to Jamie, or maybe just sitting and thinking to yourself, or maybe the next time you get anxious, realizing certain things in your body are happening, you might be able to think, okay, well, this is happening in my body. What am I anxious about? And you might be able to put out that fire before it starts. But what happens now is Jamie's going to give us some things. So if you've noticed these things, like I get sweaty palms, or I get a really sore head, or sometimes I vomit whenever I'm anxious. So you notice those things about yourself. Noticing it isn't enough. What Jamie's going to talk us through now is a traffic light system that helps us realize that we don't have to get from zero to panic attack. We actually can focus on bringing ourselves back down and how to help us do that.
Brilliant. So for me, a real simple way to look at this is to use a traffic light system, as Zara said. And that just allows us to kind of ask ourselves the question, how am I doing? To check in and say mentally, where am I at? Am I in the green zone? I'm in the amber zone, or maybe I'm in the red zone and things have already started to spiral. So again, if we look at the screen, what we have here is the green zone. Now for me, my natural behavior in the green zone is that I'm a pretty relaxed type of person. I just like to sort of go about my day. I'm pretty chilled, and yeah, I'm up for a chat. I like to be around people. That's probably my go-to, and that's me in a good space with very low anxiety. But say a situation comes up, like for me, maybe a confrontation. I don't like having arguments. So maybe I'm having arguments, Zara's laughing because she's thinking, do we ever argue?
I'm thinking I call these.
We never argue.
Situations.
But if I have a confrontation with someone and I know I'm gonna have to sit down and have a chat, or I'm gonna have to make a phone call to someone and it's really difficult, what I'll find is that I move from my green zone and I'm now in an amber zone. And the amber zone to me is when I feel those butterflies. I start to worry about the conversation. Now, if I was able to shut that down immediately, those butterflies would go away and I could drift back into my green zone. But sadly, what I do a lot of the time is I then start to worry. I start to think, but what if this goes really badly? What if this person, has a real go at me? What if we end up falling out? What if our friendship ends? What if then I lose other friends? And I start to go in this worry spiral. And I move then from my amber zone into a red zone, where now my heart is racing, I can't think straight, and I start to really panic. And I do honestly think that this confrontation has now went from 0 to 100 so quickly, and I think this could be the worst thing in the world. And I actually struggle to think clearly. But what I've learned over the last year in particular is when I do struggle with my anxiety and I find myself in this red zone, I have some very simple ways that I can start to bring myself back down. One is to control my breathing, to try and reduce my heart rate, to stop it beating out of my chest. So I'll just slow my breathing down as much as possible. And then I look to do something called problem solving. And I usually like to bring someone into that problem solving with me, particularly when I'm in this red zone. So I might phone a friend, or I might even speak to my wife, and I'll just lay out the situation and say, this is what's happened, and this is what I'm worried about. And very often what I'll find is they'll say to me, Jamie, that's not going to happen. You've really allowed that to spiral. This is a very normal conversation. This is very civil. You'll probably find that you both find a middle ground to agree on, and you'll be able to go and hang out after it. It's nothing to worry about. And that very simple conversation with someone actually allows me to come into the amber zone again, where now I am able to think rationally myself. I'll plan how the conversation, I want it to go, and I'll approach it from the place of, you know what, I need to have a chat. I'll try and just calm myself down. And very often, I do find by the end of it, I've had the conversation, I'm now in the green zone, and I'm thinking to myself, why did I allow myself to spiral? And that is something that I'm learning. So now when I notice the butterflies, I try and stop myself from going into the red. And I'll maybe have a conversation with someone straight away, or control my breathing and move back into the green. So it really is a case of learning about who you are, what your body, how it reacts, what your body does, and then working out the different ways to help yourself. So what I would love you to do now is in your groups, just to pause this video again, maybe to get a piece of paper, you can write green, amber, red, and just think, how do you behave? How do you react when you're struggling, when you're anxious? And you could have a really good chat with your friends about that and how they can help you to work back into the green zone.
So as we see from Jamie, what he was saying is that there's actually a lot of ways where you don't have to go from 0 to 100. Actually, there's loads of different ways where you can bring your levels back down. But what we see, even from what Jamie's saying there, anxiety is a liar. Anxiety lies to us constantly. So things like you get one thought in your head and suddenly Jamie is saying, you know, this person's going to hate me. All of a sudden, instead of just thinking rationally about the situation, you go from the worst to, I'm going to lose all my friends. This is going to be awful, this confrontation, which could be completely fine, and it probably will be completely fine in 99.9% of the times. But what anxiety does, when we don't talk to someone, we don't problem solve, we don't think about it rationally, we don't try and bring ourselves right back down to our green zone, when we don't do things actively, if we just forget about it, or we push it under the surface, or we pretend like it's not happening, what it does is it continues to lie to us. And especially if we're on our own, these thought patterns just spiral and spiral and spiral until they're out of control, till we are in that red zone. So we must think of different things that we can do to bring ourselves back down to our green zones again, which are our safe zones, which are the zones that we're meant to be living at. Actually, what we're meant to do, we were never meant to live in our red zones. We're never meant to live in our amber zones. Anxiety is something that keeps us safe, so we're meant to dip in and out of those zones, but we're never meant to stay there. So it's important that we work hard and that you think of your own systems to get you back down to green zone. And one different way that we're going to give you, so at the end of each session, we're going to give you a way to bring yourself back down to your green zone and to just help you. And these things are called mindfulness activities. And this one is called box breathing, so you can see it. So what you're going to do is imagine a rectangle, and I'll get Jamie to do this and to just show you how it's kind of done here. So what you're going to do is you're going to inhale for 4 seconds and you're going to exhale for 6 seconds. So what we see, it doesn't matter the 4 to 6, you just have to make sure that you're exhaling for longer than you're inhaling for. So Jamie, what I want you to do is get your finger. So everyone can do this along with us if you want. You can get your finger and you're going to draw a rectangle in the air, okay?
Yep.
So what you're going to do, you're going to do the top first, and you're going to inhale, so breathe in through your nose, make sure it's through your nose, for 4 seconds. Ready?
Oh, I just did it.
Oh,
Start
too
again.
soon. Always listen to me. Right, are you ready? So we're going to inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale for 6. And inhale, and exhale. And inhale, and exhale. And what you're going to start to notice is happening in your body is that your nervous system is slowing down. So you've gone from fight or flight. So when we feel anxious, when we feel panicky, our fight or flight system kicks in to show that there's danger against us. Our body kicks into that danger system. And what we want to do is get out of fight and flight and go into rest and digest. And to do that, we have to slow our nervous systems down. And by breathing, by focusing on that, that's what we're doing. And you can just breathe in and out, that's okay. way. But by adding in another motion, it's your body thinking about a different thing. So suddenly you're trying to get yourself away from thinking about those negative thought patterns and actually thinking about something else. So by doing both, it's really helpful. There's also another quick one that you can, it's the same thing. So you're still drawing your rectangle, but obviously if you're sitting in class, so maybe class is sometime where you feel very, very anxious, or maybe you're with friends, or maybe it's in the canteen. But wherever it is for you, if you're trying to do these exercises, but you obviously don't want to make it really obvious and draw a rectangle in the air, you can actually just draw a rectangle on your leg. So you can see Jamie's going to do that, and you can hardly tell that he's even doing it. So under the desk, you can even do it. So if you just draw that rectangle, so you can just breathe into yourself and just draw the rectangle on your leg under the desk in school, and no one will know you're doing it, no one will know you're doing the breathing activity, but it will have the same effect on bringing you down to your rest and digest. So all these are really, really good to just take you out of your red zone and help to bring you through the amber zone and back into the green zone, in which you're the most healthiest and where you can be effective without anxiety.
We hope that you've learned something new. When it comes to all your mental health stuff, you have to just go away and just really explore and learn who you are and how your body and mind reacts to different situations. We have more resources on our website, madeformoreni.co.uk. You can go on there, listen to podcasts, watch videos, and again, just learn more about how you react to different situations, and just learn to be the best version of yourself as you navigate through all these different issues.